Well, I've always been interested in companies that use innovation as a means to grow. And these guys are sort of unique in that industry in that they've got this wonderful human interface in their strength machines that is producing just great growth and has some great potential for the health industry later.
It is, of course, a very tiny business compared with the kind of businesses that you've been working for.
It is, but I also do several other things like that in some others, and just because it's big doesn't necessarily make it better. So I love these sort of working with these people who got these wonderful, innovative ideas because, you know, even in my former guys, that company was also a lot of really small companies doing innovation just like this one is. So it's interested me really throughout my life.
What's the potential, do you think, between sports and fitness and technology?
Well, if I concentrate on the healthcare industry for a moment and just look at the amount of money which is consumed there, the global spend on healthcare is about 7 trillion, 7.2 trillion. It's somewhere between 2 and 3 in the United States. And just to give you an idea of what happens in your answering the question, exercise and sport, what's the potential? When I worked at Brunswick Corporation, I was the CEO there. The entire healthcare cost per covered employee was $8,500. The cost for per covered employee in life fitness, where people habitually exercise, was $5,000. Now that $5,000, by the way, was already in that 8,500 average, so this was maybe 9,200. So you can see in places where people have exercise as a regular part of their life, the ability to reduce costs and improve wellness, quality of life really, is very, very powerful.
It's quite a crowded field though, isn't it? You've got the likes of Peloton in this country, operate a big US company now doing well over here. Has eGym got what it takes to survive in that environment?
Oh, I'm sure they do, otherwise I wouldn't personally have been involved in it. But the key is innovation and differentiation and trying to find, if you like, one of the unlock codes to A, to growth, but B, bringing benefits to individuals and to corporates alike.
Now, you've spent most of your career working in manufacturing, both in this country and America. Obviously, the US right now is involved in a trade dispute with China. Are you seeing on-the-ground effects there yet?
Yes. In companies that I work in, for example, you see the impacts of the tariffs. There are other impacts as well, obviously, foreign exchange and some commodity issues which companies are suffering. And the numbers are quite large. I think in Stanley, the number was around $350 million last year. So it's a big pill to swallow, a big bite for these companies, yes, so big impacts.
And what about here in the UK? Obviously, Chair Smith's group, well-known manufacturing business. We've just seen this announcement from Nissan not going ahead with a big investment in Sunderland. Do you worry about the future of UK manufacturing outside the EU?
Well, I think the way to solve the problem is if you can make sure your companies are competitive on a world stage, it doesn't matter as much if you're in the EU or out of the EU. I'm not necessarily advocating one or the other. I'm just making the point that the leaders of companies really should be focusing on that, is to drive competitiveness, global competitiveness in their companies.
And UK manufacturers are still doing a pretty good job by and large, aren't they? I mean, we still have some world-beating companies in this country.
Yeah, you know, the country is very strong in defence. It's very strong in aerospace. Some of my good friends at British Aerospace and at Rolls-Royce. The country is very good at pharmaceuticals, construction. You know, Foster is a wonderful company. Project management more generally, automotive parts is a very strong area. So yeah, you know, there's still a lot to be said for this country in terms of manufacturing.
But do you worry more generally about this pushback against globalisation that we're seeing, the rise of populist politicians? That kind of mitigates against free trade to an extent, doesn't it?
Well, I think it does. You know, I have a joke that sometimes I've used. I said that God always appears to be on the side of the big armies, and so size does matter because, unfortunately, the logical conclusion of dividing companies up into these pure plays is that there's only ever one person, one company that's the natural owner of every company in the world or every vertical in the world, and that's a nonsensical conclusion to reach. So I think that conglomerates, they bring not just diversity, they bring interest, they bring the power of a single balance sheet that you can focus on any one of these end markets, and also depending on the markets they serve, you see diversity. Pure players are wonderful in expanding markets, and they're terrible in contracting markets. So I'm a conglomerate lover.
That's, well, for those who are calling for Smiths Group to be broken up, that sounds pretty much like a case for the defence of the status quo.
Let's hope so.
What about social mobility in this country? I mean, you're a proudly working class guy, made good. Do you worry about social mobility in this country?
I don't worry about it because really education is the key. I did worry, I must confess, when fees were put in place, relatively high fees were put in place at university. I wondered whether that would prevent some social mobility, because what's important to think in life is not making sure that we all have equal amounts, is making sure that we all have equal chance, and then sometimes it's through luck, but sometimes it's through help. Oftentimes it's through hard work. So it's making sure everybody has equal chance, not equal things.